Hi everybody. So in this video I want to walk you through your first piece of code in the P5 editor. So what we're looking at here is the actual JavaScript code part of the program. So on the left hand side here, that's where you change the code, and then if we click the play button here, then that will execute it so you can see what it does over here. Now we have very basic code at this point, so you can see it almost does nothing. It only makes the background paint on here. So let's take a look at these two parts that we have. So you notice that there are two things called a function. And the two functions we have are setup and draw. So each of these functions are like different sections of the code, and they tell the code what to do in each of those steps. We're not going to mess with the setup function very much right now. A little bit later on we'll get to that. Most of what we're going to do is in this draw function here, because that is where we write the commands for what actually gets drawn over in the preview panel. So a few things about kind of what we're looking at. So this is the draw function, and I know its name right here. Functions always start off with the word function to tell us exactly what they are. Functions always have parentheses after them. Sometimes they're empty, and sometimes they have something in them. We'll see that in a little bit. And then the actual body of the function is defined with these curly braces. So you can see the one curly brace to start it, and then where the other curly brace is where that function ends. So everything that's in between those two curly braces are the actual code statements and the commands that run whenever that function is being run. So right now we only have one command, which is the background command, and it does have a setting in here, so that changes whatever the background is. And you can definitely have more than one statement in here. All right, so if I pressed enter and I started typing in this newly created blank space, then I could add more commands to do something different. So right now the only command we have, like I said, is the background. And then here we actually do put something in the parentheses because we want to give specifics about what that background is going to be. When you give it a number here, it's defining how light or dark it is. So we could just see what happens if we change this number then. So 1 instead of 220, if we instead made it 0, just to see what that would do. So if we play it again, we've made a change in the code, so we should expect something different in the preview here. So something about this number kind of changes the color, the brightness, something in this background here. So if we try a number maybe bigger than that 220 from before, so if I try 250, there we can see it's almost white. It's really close to being white. So that's what changing those numbers would do here. And if I did some kind of number in the middle, then we'd probably expect something in the middle between black and white changing these. You don't always put numbers here, but for right now, that's all we're going to see. And you'll see this symbol, the semicolon here. That tells us that it's the end of the statement or the end of this line. It's actually optional in JavaScript to have that there, but it does make it a little nicer to read. It kind of reminds us this is a statement that actually performs some kind of an action. So as opposed to line 5 that just tells us this is the name of the function, line 6 actually has a command going on. All right, so what if we run our own command? What if we did something like circle? And all functions have parentheses after them. Sometimes they're empty and sometimes they're not. Just happens that circle here needs to have 3 different settings put into it, and we call those parameters. So if I just typed a few different numbers here, see what it would do. And I'll type a semicolon just to show it's the end of the statement. That actually is optional, but we'll just do it. And then click play, see what happens. All right, so you can see that circle command drew a circle. And these numbers in here change exactly how that's done. and there's a place where you can look up what all these different functions are, and we can get to those, but it just happens that there's these three numbers here. The first number says the X position of the circle that we're drawing. The second number shows the Y position of the circle that we're drawing, and then that last number shows the diameter of it. So you could see if we changed these numbers around, if we made them all 100, right, so you can see how that did change the location of it. It didn't actually change the size because I didn't change the diameter setting. But I did change the X and the Y setting. Instead of it being 50, I changed it to 100, so that did move it over. And then the Y setting as well, instead of it being 75, it was 100, so it actually did move down a little bit. So just to say that these numbers affect exactly how that circle is drawn, exactly how the code runs. All right, so that's your first little bit of code.